Hi again, everybody. Conrad Zimmerman here, going to answer some more of the questions off my Ask FM page. If you want to ask me a question, you just hit the thing there and fill out the little box, and it asks me a question, and then maybe I answer it here. That's how this works. Let's do the first one. If you could buy only one portable console, which would it be, 3DS or PS Vita? Well, I mean, I've already bought a 3DS, so it's a bit late if I wanted to change my mind. And actually, the thing is, for me personally, handhelds don't have a lot of appeal at this point. I don't need to play games on the go because I don't really go anywhere. And usually my wife's pretty good about letting me use the TV in the living room. More often than not, she'd like to watch a game being played as much as television or anything else, so I don't have a lot of need for consoles anymore, and that's the thing that I found with the 3DS, is that I just don't really use it. That said, I do think that, particularly with all the moves Sony's made towards indie game publishing and so forth, that it's the platform that has the more interesting stuff for me on it, and it's a more technologically interesting handheld. Of course, I'm speaking of the first runs of Vitas with the OLED screen, which is really gorgeous and really appealing, and it's a wonderful, wonderful device. I'm less interested in the newer, slimmer model that they have coming, but yeah, I'd probably go Vita at this point if it was a choice between them, and I was still really into portables. Next question. Do you like the Ninja Turtles? If so, have you had an experience with the franchise since the 80s cartoon? I didn't really watch the 80s cartoon. The Ninja Turtles are fine. I saw the movies growing up. I played the video games, but I didn't really watch the cartoon all that much. And then later on in my, adult years and so forth, I went back and I read some of the comics, which were totally different and kind of out there. But the franchise itself doesn't hold a whole lot of special place in here for me. It was something that I think was the first time I became really clear to me that cartoon shows and things like that were 30-minute advertisements for kids and to buy toys, and yeah, it just didn't. I didn't get into Ninja Turtles for whatever reason, and I know that there is a lot of cool lore and some interesting characters, and it's definitely weird enough to be something that I'd be into, but oddly, no, not a big Turtles fan. Next question. Will the Wii U do a Dreamcast? Alright, so I'm not exactly certain what's meant by that. It could suggest that, the Wii U is going to suddenly just disappear, they're no longer going to support it, and I don't think that's the case. I think the situations that Nintendo, between the difference between the situation Nintendo's in now and the situation Sega found itself in around the turn of the century are pretty different. The Saturn had not been a huge success. They'd been losing market share to Nintendo, I think, pretty steadily. And it was not a less desperate gambit for Sega, but it was a risk and an expensive one. And the Wii U, by comparison, doesn't feel like much of a risk. It feels like less of a risk being taken on Nintendo's part. They aren't in a position where they need to worry about whether or not the Wii U makes them a ton of money, because they have a ton of money. They've got money in the bank from the Wii and from now the handheld, and from the handheld market, and the 3DS is catching on and making sales and doing much better than it had been. I expect the Wii U probably will as well. They've got strong software lineup building now. I'm not concerned about what the Wii U is doing at this point and what it means for the success of Nintendo, because I think that they could let this one go by the wayside just sort of run it out over a couple more years, introduce a new console, and keep right on going. I'm not concerned about Nintendo and the Wii U. I'm gonna have some coffee here. Good coffee. Right. Next question. Do you generally use standard controls when you play games, or do you use other presets or custom controls? Well, that's the sort of thing that really varies game to game. There are certain genres where I think the control schemes have become so universal that I rarely find need. Like the way first-person shooters control is fairly stock standard at this point, and it's unfortunate that maybe some more experimentation isn't being done, but then again, we found the thing that works, and why fix it? So for like first-person shooters and stuff, more often than not, I just maybe invert controls, or invert Y, so that my camera feels comfortable. But for all sorts of other games, sure, I'll definitely use custom controls. I love hand controllers, like gamepads and things like that. So games that I play on PC that don't have controller support, I joy to key that whenever it's possible. And if it's not possible, there's often... I'm probably not going to play that game very much. Other games, like on the PlayStation 2, there were those music games from Harmonix, Frequency and Amplitude. Loved those games. The controls were not good simply because the controller for the PlayStation 2, its button layout, the game required access to 4 buttons and movement, and it never felt right no matter how you did it. That was a game that I wanted to make my own controller for, just to facilitate playing that, because it's a game that requires such precision, and the button layout was terrible, every single one of them. Another question: can you recommend more books, please? I really enjoyed The Road and House of Leaves after hearing you talk about them. Sure, I love to talk about books. Books are great. Today I'll recommend Jonathan Lethem, who is an author that I really got into in the early 2000s, and he did some books that I really loved in the 90s. I'm less into his current stuff. I haven't really kept up with him. He's moved into more period piece dramas and things like that, and more books about New York, which is totally fine, and from what I've read, they're good books. They're just not really something that I'm into, but I would highly recommend Motherless Brooklyn, which is a sort of private investigation story set in New York City, and there's the mob and the police, corrupt cops, and the main character has Tourette's syndrome, and it's really, really fascinating. It's at times funny and awkward and uncomfortable, but it has a really sympathetic main character and a lot of cool stuff going on. It's a great, well-composed novel. Other books by Lethem that I like, his science fiction noir detective story, Gun with Occasional Music. His House of Leaves, if you liked that, you'll probably like Amnesia Moon, which is a sort of post-apocalyptic... I hate to spoil it because it kind of has a really good twist in the first third of the book that kind of turns it on its ear, but definitely worth reading. So yeah, check out Jonathan Lethem. Good stuff. Finally, one more question. This is from Adeste Fidelis. Thank you, Adeste, for asking. Peace and goodwill to all men, or just to Conrad Zimmerman? Which would you choose? Now, it's going to come off a little bit selfish, but I'm going to have to say peace and goodwill to all men, just because I don't think the latter's possible. I don't think you can have peace and goodwill towards just one person. It's not the way it works. I think if we're ever going to have peace in this world, it's going to be on the basis that we consider the perspectives and opinions and thoughts and hopes and dreams of the other people around us, and spend less time focusing on the things that make us individually happy. So in that spirit, I hope everybody, if you're celebrating holidays at this time or this week, or if you've been celebrating them this season, that they are and have been happy and wonderful and filled with friends and family and fellowship. And thank you so much for watching. If you have a question that you'd like to ask me, again, just hit the Ask FM link listed right there on the screen. And don't forget that you can also follow me on Twitter. That's twitter.com/Conrad Zimmerman, and subscribe to the channel for more Q&A videos, for more gameplay stuff. I'm going to be doing a really fun thing with the wife here, playing Legend of Dungeons soon, so you're going to want to check that out. Thanks so much, happy holidays, and take care.